What's up, everybody? In today's video, let's discuss a little bit of the buzz going on around the MMA world right now, and that is Justin Gaethje defending his BMF title against Max Holloway. And in today's video, I want to give an early prediction, early breakdown, and just my initial thoughts of this matchup and when I think it's going to happen and what we should think of this matchup, or at least what I think of this matchup. And that is, let's just start with, this fight is very likely for UFC 300 if this is the route the UFC is looking to go. You know, listen, I know that there's been some buzz around the possibility of Justin Gaethje taking on Islam Makhachev in March in Saudi on that fight night card and all these different things. I think at the end of the day, this fight is actually very likely. And the reason is UFC 300 needs some headliners where some titles are going to be on the line. And what more exciting matchup could you make really for the BMF title? A guy in Max Holloway who has basically ran through everyone at featherweight. Other than Volkanovski, who's just kind of his kryptonite, Max Holloway has just been sensational. You know, we saw him, what my pause is, we saw Max Holloway go up to 155 a while ago to take on Dustin Poirier for the 155-pound interim strap. And we saw in that matchup, although Max Holloway was able to hurt Dustin Poirier, we saw that there's a little bit of a power difference, right? In my opinion, I think that we can all recognize that there was a little bit of a power difference when Max Holloway went up to 155, where Max's style was based around pace, cardio, pressure, volume, and I just don't know how that would work against Justin Gaethje. And I know a lot of people are quick to say, oh, well, Max Holloway fought Dustin Poirier. He was able to eat his shots, and he was able to hurt Dustin Poirier. And again, styles make fights, guys. And I just think that this is a really scary matchup for Max Holloway because Max is really durable. We've never seen Max finished. We've seen Max hang in there with just about anybody. Justin Gaethje is an absolute wrecking ball. He is a monster at 155 pounds. His power in his hands, his kicks. Gaethje's a monster, man. However, we have to be honest with Justin Gaethje's career lately, right? I mean, Justin Gaethje, yes, he did come off the phenomenal, sensational head kick KO over Dustin Poirier. He was able to get through Rafael Fiziev, which I actually thought was kind of a tough matchup for Justin Gaethje. He was able to get through him. But other than that, Justin Gaethje's had a lot of ups and downs. And I think that if we look at this matchup outside of the power, I really think that Max Holloway stands, pretty well against Justin Gaethje. It just is the question of how does Max Holloway take that power from Justin Gaethje? Because at the end of the day, Justin Gaethje's leg kicks are a nightmare. We've seen that Volkanovski was able to beat up the legs of Max Holloway. We've seen the power of Poirier when he matched up against Holloway, the difference there. But I just think at the end of the day, man, this is kind of a bad matchup for Max Holloway, right? I mean, we all love Max Holloway. It's impossible not to like Max Holloway. Do I want to see this matchup? Absolutely. I think this is an incredible fight. I think this is a really fun fight. Obviously, this fight takes place on the feet. If someone doesn't get finished, this just ends up being a 5-round war, which is exactly what kind of worries me. Because Justin Gaethje, although he does have a pretty good gas tank, we see him kind of fade as the fight plays on. But I just think in this matchup, man, the power of Gaethje, the way that he's able to land those leg kicks, I think that his power, just what's coming back Max Holloway's way, just could be a bit too much. But at the same time, coming into this video, I really was like, man, this is kind of a scary matchup for Max Holloway. And then the more I think about it, Max Holloway, these two fighters are so interesting because of how they've evolved. Max Holloway used to just be a let's slug this thing out, let's stand in the middle and trade. And Gaethje used to be the same thing. Gaethje's like, I'm just going to walk forward, eat some shots, and try and deliver one powerful shot and hurt you. And we've just seen Justin Gaethje. I mean, Gaethje was willing to eat several shots just to beat your legs up so bad. And that was kind of Gaethje's entire game plan to now Gaethje's fine taking a backward step, being very calculated and measured. And so is Max Holloway, two guys that have made tremendous evolutions in their career. That guys that were, standing in there slugging it out with everyone to now having a more technical, reserved approach to the fight, being okay taking that backward step, being okay moving laterally, adding kicks into their game. Two guys that have really evolved their game in different ways. And I just think that this is a really interesting fight. It's a really fun fight. I think it's the right fight if you're going to have Gaethje defend the BMF strap. None better than a guy like Max Holloway, who everyone loves, who has really shown that he's one of the best strikers the sport has to offer. I just get concerned with the power difference, right? I mean, we've seen Holloway take the power of Dustin Poirier. We've seen him take the shots of Alexander Volkanovski. But I think we can all agree that when he's on, Justin Gaethje is probably the most powerful and dangerous dude at 155, man. Let's just be honest. I mean, if we go down the list, we've seen Oliveira has good power. We've seen Chandler has good power. But when it comes to just nastiness, that's Justin Gaethje. The leg kicks, just the way he's able to set stuff up. His head movement has really improved. I think that we kind of get more or less, I don't want to say a boxing match because I think Gaethje's going to try to, beat up the legs of Holloway. But I really do think that Max Holloway, I really do think that Justin Gaethje's power could be a bit too much for Max Holloway. The thing is it would probably be a 5-round fight. And I worry about a 5-round fight for Justin Gaethje because Gaethje doesn't book too well in 5-round fights, man. And Max Holloway, we've seen Holloway go the distance plenty of times in 5-round fights. He's no stranger to a 5-round war, a 5-round technical masterclass like what we saw Holloway do against Arnold Allen. We've seen Holloway get doubted. We've seen him go up against these young, hungry lions and still be able to just outclass them. And this matchup with Justin Gaethje, if this happens, is just a really interesting fight because the power of Gaethje, it's easy to say that like, wow, he's going to really hurt Max. Could he be the first one to get him out of there? And it's like, how many times have we thought that with Max Holloway? We saw how he matched up with Dustin Poirier, and that's a southpaw. So if we're going orthodox on orthodox here, I really kind of I think that early on, obviously, there's a lot to worry about with Gaethje, right? There's a lot to worry about. The power, the uppercuts, the leg kicks, the hooks, the head movement, his countering abilities that we've seen with Justin Gaethje. But we also have seen Max Holloway hurt people. We saw him brutally KO the Korean Zombie. So it's not like Max Holloway doesn't have power. I think Max Holloway, if he can sit down on some shots, maybe that could end up being the difference, in the fight. But to sit there and say that, Max Holloway doesn't have a chance, I think is unfair. I think that people are going to be quick to say, well, Gaethje's a monster, the power, this and that. Again, styles make fights. And I think that we saw against Dustin Poirier, if we're going to relate this to anything, that's probably the matchup that we could probably take the most from. Because Dustin Poirier, a guy that he does throw some leg kicks, but at the end of the day, he relies on the boxing, which is what Justin Gaethje does. Now, we saw Max Holloway able to hurt Poirier. Now, granted, they fought each other at 45. Poirier used to be a 45er. Justin Gaethje has never been a 45er. Justin Gaethje has always been a 55er. He's a guy that people have wondered if he was ever going to fight at 170. We've seen him in there with the hard hitters. But with Max Holloway's not going to fade, dude. Max Holloway's going to, he's going to be able to be there for 5 rounds. We saw that. And if Gaethje does hurt him and tries to get Holloway out of there, I could potentially see Gaethje kind of gassing himself out, and next thing you know, Max Holloway's just peppering him and then ends up looking kind of like the Cater fight as the fight plays on. So I think that this is a really, really fun fight. Obviously, the fans win if this fight happens. I think both fighters absolutely would entertain this matchup because both of them don't like fighting grapplers, right? I mean, even though Max Holloway has really good takedown defense, Gaethje has pretty good defensive wrestling. Both of these guys want to stand and bang, man. At the end of the day, that's what they want to do. Justin Gaethje's the highlight. He's basically everyone's favorite fighter in terms of entertainment. They call him the highlight for a reason. Max Holloway is one of the legends of the sport at this point. There are things that he's accomplished. He just hasn't been able to get through Alexander Volkanovski. But other than that, Max Holloway has just been sensational. I think it's a matter of time. It's that time for Max Holloway to fight for some sort of belt again outside of 145 pounds, where the BMF title is really just guys that aren't able to win an actual UFC championship that fight for this fun belt. And it's not to slight these guys, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with if you can't win a UFC championship belt, but you can have a ton of fans and you can be exciting, you can make a great living for yourself, and you can in a way make more money than some of the champions probably, right? I mean, I don't necessarily know that for a fact, but going off of what we know Nathan Diaz, we know Jorge Masvidal, we know Dustin Poirier, we know Justin Gaethje. These guys are some of the best in the sport and some of the biggest names in the sport that fans get behind, and these guys are not champions. So this, I think, is, if you're going to fight for the BMF belt, I don't think that you need to be some, guy that's slapping people up in the streets or anything like that. I think that you need to be fun. You need to be willing to stand and trade, and you need to be willing to bring the fight to the other guy, and you just need to be able to stand in there, face adversity, and basically it's just kind of a fight till someone is KO'd or someone is finished, and I think that that's what we get in a matchup like this. I really do believe this is very likely for UFC 300 at least, or some sort of event here in the near future, because I really do believe this is an incredible matchup. I think that, yes, it does sound kind of disastrous for Max Holloway in a way, but with this new evolved Justin Gaethje and this new evolved Max Holloway, where these guys are a lot more patient, there's a lot more technical, a lot more of a technical approach to their styles nowadays, where they're not just like biting down and swinging in the middle like what we've seen with Max in the past, what we've seen with Gaethje in the past. These guys are very technical now. They're okay with moving laterally. They're okay with taking a backward step. This is a tremendous matchup. Early prediction, I lean towards Justin Gaethje. I'm not making a pick yet, but I lean towards Gaethje because he's patient. The power advantage is on his side. The leg kicks are on his side, but don't rule out Max Holloway, man. The volume, his hands, he does have, I think he'll have a speed advantage on Gaethje, although Gaethje is very fast. I think that Holloway, the way I see this fight playing out, if you're like, hey, man, you had to make a prediction now, how you see this fight playing out, I honestly see Gaethje hurting Max Holloway, Gaethje trying to get him out of there, and Max weathering the storm, circling out, the round ends, and Max Holloway's just in his face, just peppering him. And Gaethje starts to slow down and starts to get tired and kind of becomes one-dimensional, where he's just looping shots, and Max Holloway's just kind of standing in there, peppering him with a few shots, moving out of the way, eating a shot, kind of circling off, and then just peppering away and winning by a decision where he just pulls away on the judges' scorecards by accumulating a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, guys, this is an unbelievable fight. I hope we get this one next for Justin Gaethje. What do you all think? Early prediction, drop one below, like, subscribe, help your boy out. I appreciate you all. See you in the next one.